Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Claus Connect. Today is June 9th, and this is Sean, Mrs. Claus Vintage, and I am glad that you are all here. Let's see, let's jump on the comments and see who has joined us. Hello, Bill and John. Thank you for joining us tonight. I'm going to give it just a little bit of time and let others join us. Find the link. And it is raining here at my house, storming, so hopefully nothing will happen. Paul, hello. Betsy, Diane, hello to you too. Thanks for joining me tonight. We are going to have a great show. I'm going to let everybody keep coming on here. Hello, Jim. I was on TikTok tonight and it was a little bit slow. I don't know if it's that kind of Monday. Hello, Carl, cousin Carl White. How are you? Everett. Hello. Stay bearded. Hello, Terry. Thanks for joining me tonight. Once again, I am Sean White, and I am with the Claus Connect on the air. We are going to be on YouTube too, under Claus Connect. If you'll subscribe, I would appreciate it very much. I'm trying to grow that. TNL Network Production is the network, and they are wonderful, wonderful people. Help us all out. And thanks to Angela tonight for being the producer and putting this all together. We appreciate you very much. Tonight's show is going to be about notes of wisdom, the art of performance. And the guest I have is perfect for this topic. He is one of my best friends and performer friends that is always encouraging. He's full of knowledge that helps us all out. He's a very good support for everyone. So before I introduce him, I'm going to have Angela run a video, and we're going to see some pictures. We're going to see the real him tonight, who he really is, where he comes from, what he does for a career. Because sometimes in this Claus community, we don't really dive into backgrounds too much, and it's really interesting, and that's why we are who we are. So tonight I will be introducing Dr. Bruce Kotowich, and before that, right now we are going to run the video. So Angela, if you would run the video, please. With pictures are amazing. And with that, I am so proud to announce my friend, Dr. Bruce. Welcome, Dr. Bruce.
Good evening. Thank you, Sean. It's great to be here.
Tell us about yourself.
Well, I was born and raised in Winnipeg, Manitoba. So if you're trying to figure out where that is, it's basically dead center in North America. Just south of where all the forest fires are right now, actually.
Nice.
Yeah. Um,
And
yeah. So I was born and raised there. Went off to grad school, wound up in Cincinnati, and from that point on, it's kind of been a fast, fun, incredible life.
so you've been in theater, you've been on stage many, many times in different ways, as an actor, as a singer. You've guided the youth of today and yesteryear, probably
Yes. Yeah.
through all of that, which is
Yeah.
amazing. I love that.
Oh, thank you. It's
Um,
I feel blessed. I feel so honored to be able to do what I'm doing. Like, you know, people comment or they joke or they become kind of whimsical about, well, find a job that you like doing and that actually pays you. Well, I'm doing that. Like, I wake up every morning and it's like, wow, like
wow.
I get to create art. I get to influence future careers. I get to work with people who have similar passions. Whether it's in the arts, whether it's through academia, through the university, whether it's through the Christus Performers community, through the applause community, through our consortium, I really am leading a very blessed life.
Yes. So, on a personal note, tell us about your wonderful wife, Jennifer.
Jennifer, yes,
She's amazing. I met her at Charles Howard last year and had dinner with you guys, and I enjoyed her so much. And she can sing like an angel.
yes, yeah. Well, we were set up basically not quite a blind date, but we I was teaching. I met Jennifer in 2005. We were both teaching at the International Peace Gardens Music Camp, and my roommate Tim, who was my best man at the wedding, and Jennifer's roommate set us up.
Oh,
And so like the year I my first year teaching there was in 2004, but Jennifer was off that summer working on her DMA. So Tim and Cindy were just going on and on about this Jennifer. So then 2005, I was invited back, met Jennifer, and Tim said, "Well, you should ask her out." And I said, she'll never know. Like, she'll never
oh,
date me. And apparently Cindy, because even though like we were at camp, we were supposed to be teaching, we were supposed to be wonderful role models, we'd be like our students up till 2 or 3 in the morning talking. So, and the same conversation was happening with Cindy and Jennifer. Jennifer said, "Oh no, he won't even notice me. He won't pay attention. He's blah 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 and all this stuff." So, um, after I taught at camp, which is on the North Dakota Manitoba border, I would go back up to Winnipeg, see my family. So I was driving back down to Dubuque because I was teaching at Loras College at the time. So leaving Winnipeg, Jennifer was teaching at Bemidji State University. So I thought, oh, as opposed to going to Fargo and seeing family in Fargo, I'll just swing through. So our first date was at the Applebee's by the Bemidji Mall.
oh, wow.
So we had lunch there, and for I don't know how many years we had this long distance relationship on the phone, and Loras College um, found that they needed a full time voice teacher. So Jennifer was the winning candidate, and that's how we started our life together. Was
How wonderful.
we were both at Loras College in Dubuque, Iowa.
It's probably why you guys are so close. I mean, if you can do a long distance, that's
It was
magical. Yeah.
it was really tough, but
Yeah.
if it's meant to be, and if you really want something,
Yep.
you will do whatever it takes to achieve it.
Yep.
And I don't know where I'd be if it weren't for Jennifer, because you can have all the talent in the world, but if you don't have a support, if you don't have that person who believes in you, I don't. I think it's almost impossible.
Yeah.
And in our business, I think the thing that really scared me was that when I went to grad school in Cincinnati, when I finally decided that was the place. How many of my colleagues and how many other guys who were married or were engaged or were in relationships, it all failed. And that horrified me. And for years, I just didn't even want to be in another.
That's
But when
nice.
it's the right person, it's amazing. The world doesn't stop. The world becomes better.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. You're
Yes.
going in and out a little bit. I don't know if
Oh,
it's this weather.
okay. I'll speak loud.
Okay.
How's that?
Um, Sounds better. I
Okay.
can't wait to spend more time with her. I
Yes.
think I just am really looking forward to that. So future trips, whatever, I'm
Well,
looking forward to that.
you're
So
you're
I
just
know,
down 94 from us.
I know, I know, and there's some places that we all need to meet at for sure. So
Yes.
tell me about your two loves that are in the house that I know you think very highly of.
Monty, the redhead, that we got the summer of 2020, and Rizalka, um, that we got January of 2022, I think. And yeah, we got Monty. And during COVID, Jennifer's dual citizen, so she was able to cross back and forth without any problems. So she went out and got Monty from our friends in Dubuque, and Monty moved in on Thursday night. And on Friday morning at 7 o'clock, when I went to go get the paper, he took off like a shot and chose to go on a 6-day retreat up on Blue Heron Hill
Oh my
in Ottawa.
gosh.
So it was really interesting. You would never think that a little dog with a huge personality could bring an entire neighborhood and several choral organizations and animal organizations outdoors during lockdown here during COVID, and
That's quite the
and
story.
and we were able to be outside, and it was one of the few things that brought our neighborhood all together was looking for Monty.
Love it.
So and Rizalka, and Monty was not thrilled with me. But when we got Rizalka, suddenly all that changed, and so we are good buds now,
That's
and
awesome.
those two are their own couple.
I
So
love it. I love it. Um, okay, real quick, let's see who else on here. I had it pulled up.
yeah. Oh, and Mike, yes, Monty's Adventures made it all the way to Hamilton. Yes, that's true. Yep.
Santa Bill, hello. Don, hello. Ken from Ohio, hello, Ken. I haven't talked to him in a while. Hello, Kane. David, hello, Mel. Glad you're on here. And Mike, yes.
You know,
Jeff and
I feel
Randy.
so fortunate that all these people are tuning in just to hear us chat. Thank you, everyone.
I
Thank you.
know, it's so wonderful.
Yeah.
Good people.
Yep.
Okay, so let's go to some. Okay, I want to know. I This question came up in my mind just now as you were talking at the beginning. What are some of the most, I guess you could say, famous places that you have performed at, or taken students to, or whatever? The places that we would know, big places.
Okay. As you saw in that photo montage, Carnegie Hall.
Super
Um,
cool.
you saw that, yeah. So and you saw me posing next to the Maestro Suite, which was Leonard Bernstein's personal dressing room. So
Wow.
it was like I walked in there, it was like, oh my goodness. Other places, St. Peter's Basilica, Westminster Abbey, Chicago Symphony Hall, Roy Thompson Hall, um, Paris, Church of the Madeleine, Notre Dame. Oh my goodness, all these concert halls. Music Hall in Cincinnati, I can't leave that one out. Disney Hall in LA. Uh, My goodness, just so many places.
So are you singing now for anything, or are you just conducting, or what are you at now?
Right now, I'm conducting. Since COVID, I've not gone back to taking auditions.
Okay.
If someone calls and says, "Hey, do you want to do this oratorio? Do you want to do this project?" I'll I'll think about it. But right now, it's the conducting is staying busy, and also, they've made me director of the school at the university, so that's been taking up a lot of time.
Yeah,
But
just a little probably, right?
right,
Just a
yeah,
little bit.
yeah,
Wow.
yeah. But
Wow.
but the thing is the conducting the music is such a big part of my life, and it's where I connect with people. Not just people that I'm performing with or that I'm adjudicating or that I'm clinicking, workshopping, but audiences. And I don't think people understand how, as performers, um, we connect with the audience. And one of the things I like doing is after a performance is to be out in the lobby socializing. And I don't get to see everybody, but it's the people that I do meet and that I do speak with. It's uh, again, it's just I feel so fortunate that I could do that stuff. Yeah.
Well, I was thinking about the questions I was going to ask you tonight, and really, going into this through the outline, and thinking up more questions. And I do know that you are one of the few people I've met and heard in life that you can start singing. You can sing with a room full of people, hundreds of people, and you start singing and you are heard. And it's amazing, your voice. So
Thank you.
that was my thought today. I thought that's something that only Dr. Bruce has, that is just above the rest. Um,
Thank you.
Bruce.
Well, yeah. Well,
And actually, I'm honored that I get to have you for a choir director when I go to Charles Howard.
uh,
That's huge for me.
oh, it's a
And
blast. Yeah.
yeah, that is so much fun, that choir. Even though I know you can hear us all because you know how to do that, and but
Yeah.
um, super fun.
But I don't think what people don't understand is that, okay, we don't have a lot of time,
Mm-mm.
but the growth that takes place in like those 3 or 4 hours is mind blowing, and people don't believe how they change as performers, as singers in those few hours. And that's what's so exciting. And to also, like hear that first sound and think, okay, this is where we're at, but I feel, I know I could hear that there's something that this is where it can go. And that's what I love about it.
One of the things that's close and dear to my heart when I do something like that, or even in the musicals, when I'm in the musicals, there's always some adult that doesn't know how to read music
Yep.
or has never done anything like that, and nothing does better from my heart is the person standing next to me doesn't know how to read music, so I'm helping them learn
Hmm.
as we're going. So
Yep.
that's part of I enjoy that part of it too,
But
because there's always somebody.
yeah, but what is so cool is that these people that say, well, I don't read that well, but I'll tell you, most of them have got a set of ears and tonal memory that they keep up with it all. Like, was it last year? Was it we did Christmas as a feeling, and it was kind of like, well, let's just try this. And I thought, well, if we have to pull it, we could always pull it. But oh my goodness, like people just,
That was amazing.
yeah, yeah,
It was like
yeah,
take your breath away cool.
yeah.
Very, very cool. I've even real quick been with people that couldn't read music, and I looked over, and I realized they couldn't read the music when they were doing like stick figures, trying to with what we were doing in the musical. That's how they were writing out their poor souls. But yeah, that's when I've helped them.
But
Um,
but the thing is that the human voice and the human singing voice. I know that people say, well, I was told in elementary school that I shouldn't be singing. What is it? It's 0.4 percentage of the world actually has a neural block, like has actual damage to the transmitter nerves. It's it's just a practiced experience, and there is nothing freer than just singing, and what we're seeing, across the world. These people come together. Like, okay, I just gonna have to mention it. The Stanley Cup playoffs. There was, well, first of all, I was crushed that Winnipeg got bumped out by Dallas. Yes, yes, Bob, your home team next door to you in Mesquite. I still think it was the officiating. But to hear that first game in Edmonton last week and to hear the anthems being sung, the anthem singer stopped singing because the audience drowned him out. And they
Wow.
and they and apparently it was reported you could hear the anthems being sung outside of the arena in Edmonton. So
Wow.
there's something about when a group of people come together and sing. And at Charles W. Howard, Jennifer even said, and she was a resident artist for Florida Grand. She sung all over the place, Carnegie Hall, you name it. She was part of the Met Opera finalists. But there's some, even she said, like, just hearing all these people come together at the banquet, singing all together, and she said it was unaccompanied and it was in tune, it was together, it was rhythmic. She said, like, did you practice all these carols? I said, no, like, we sing them the through the school, but we don't rehearse the group singing. And she didn't believe me. She thought that we were working every day on those Christmas carols with the entire group. I said, no. I said, that's what can take place. That is the human possibility.
Yep. That's one of the big reasons I'm in the choir at Charles Howard. And there's usually we bond with each other also, even though we don't
Yeah,
have that long, but we know who's been in that choir with us. You remember it. And that's the reason I do musicals for that.
we need varsity jackets. We need Charles W. Howard varsity choir jackets.
We're the cool choir.
Right.
Well, let me look on here and see. We have Asana Jeff. I don't know if I said that. Hello. Troy. Hello. Patrick Moss, my friend, our friend now. You've met him
Yep.
too from Houston. Hello, Patrick. Charlie. Yep, Charlie's in the choir with us. Yep, he knows. He usually knows what everything's going on. He can always go to.
Phenomenal singer. Phenomenal singer. Yeah.
Ken was in it this year, so that was
Yep.
fun. Uh,
Oh, thank you, John. That is wonderful. Go Jets.
and what does Angela says, John? I forgive you. That's funny. Um, well, right now, let's see. Do we have anything else about your performances, backgrounds? You do play a big part at Charles Howard. Um, you're the one of the faces of it, and play the piano for Tom and
Mhm.
whatever Tom needs. Basically, we know how it works up there, which I'm more than happy personally to help Holly or anything they ever need because I believe in that school so much.
It's such a great family experience.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Um, is there anything else that you would like to add into this before we go to break?
No, just, I just feel so fortunate that I've been able to take what was a pastime when I was growing up and have turned it into a very successful career. And it's about finding what our passions are, and trusting that we're on the right path. Because I'll tell you, I had many years thinking maybe I should go back to studying medicine, and maybe I really should be,
Mhm.
not doing this. But I can't complain.
Yeah, good. Happy place, I hope, because I would never want to lose you to that. We need you in this world. Okay, right now, Angela, can you run the commercial break, please? Well, that was nice. I want to get some of those boots still. Haven't talked to him yet, but I will be.
Yeah.
Angela, the next thing we're gonna talk about the rest of the remainder of the show. We're already at the halfway point. I'm hoping that we run over everybody's. Just so you know, if you're watching, hopefully I should have probably talked to the producer about this beforehand, but I usually ask for forgiveness after in my life. But um, so right now we're going to transition into the entertainer world with Dr. Bruce, and he is a fabulous Santa Claus, and he has lots of advice and help on our stage presence and all kinds of goodness. So right now, I would like to run some pictures of him so that we can see the entertainer part of Dr. Bruce. Please, Angela. Okay, so I also forgot to say, Charlie reminded me here that you are a St. Nicholas presenter too, of St.
Yeah.
Nicholas, and you do such a good job with that one.
Thank you.
I saw it, Charles Howard is where I saw it a couple years ago, I guess it was. Um, Amazing. You know your background, you know your character, and it shows.
Thank you.
Yep.
So yeah, so you were saying to me that you wanted to talk about stage presence and so forth, and let's just get started there.
Okay.
Do you mind? And knowing that character, I think, is what's so important. And let's face it, I we never totally arrive. Like I'm just looking at this guest list here, Sean, and like oh my goodness, like I feel like I'm preaching to the choir here because there are people here who are just incredible
Yeah.
people as well. But we never arrive, um, and we were talking about this. I threw out the phrase was at the start of term one year with university singers, and I put up this slide, and it said, um, "When you're ripe, you rot. So always be green, wanting to ripen." And I believe it was a phrase that the founder of McDonald's lived by. Was it Frank Kroc? I should have looked up his name. I'm sorry, I didn't prep for this that thoroughly, I guess. But the idea that having a concept of the background. Again, I just go back to Tom Valant because I met Tom at a point where it was like, yeah, I do Santa. Yeah, I've got lots of bookings. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And it was kind of like I was I just what something wasn't connecting, and I was losing it. I was leaking joy, leaking energy, and it's like I don't know. And then I met Sam Militano. He said, "Well, have you ever gone to the school?" I said, "Well, yeah, you have to apply. You have to fill out this big form. You have to tell them why you want to do this, what your ideas, your philosophies." I thought, I just said it's too much work, and Sam said, "Oh, just," he said, "You're an academic. Just put down anything. Just put down your thoughts and just go for it." So the first time I go out to Charles W. Howard, everything that could go wrong. I was teaching in Dubuque. the wiring in my Tucson didn't work. So I didn't get out of Dubuque till 2 in the afternoon. Well, it's a 9-hour drive. So I
Right.
arrived in Berlin at 3 in the morning. I showed up, and this is still when the school was held in the Santa House. And there's this incredible brass choir that Roger Weisberger's students were playing, this incredible trombone choir. And then just hearing Tom talk, it was like I forgot that I had no sleep, all this stuff. And then when he talked about where is your North Pole, it all started to happen. So, and even now, like I feel that I'm still on my journey. And but the first big step for all of us, figure out who you are. Who is your Santa? Who is your Mrs. Claus? And even though I don't have a regular Mrs. Claus, I know who she is. Like she's got an MBA in organizational logistics.
Yeah, for
She,
sure.
she's my Santa's CFO. And I realized, Kate, that doesn't kind of jive into everyone's, well, she makes cookies. Well, as Santa, as Bruce, I love baking. That's an artistic release. There are
Nice.
times I come back from the university, from the office, where I just have to cook. I just have to bake. So like those aspects of developing that character, knowing what that story is, um, helps us enter into that idea. So knowing that, and you don't have to have a totally fleshed out story. You go with what you've got. Being the age that I am now, do I wish when I was 30, late 20s, 30s, that I knew everything that I feel about these works I conduct, that I teach, that I coach, that I perform? Oh, sure. But the journey to get to where I am is what people see. And that's what we're all about, is that we see these characters become live, real flesh people. So,
That's why when when I'm up in front of a group talking to them, or my advice to people that are just starting out is just dive deep into what you think your character is. And with that, you need to think about, when you think, say, I think about Mrs. Claus, where do I get that picture from? So you go deeper. And, my great grandmother, okay, she kind of looked and walked and wore the apron, the whole thing.
mhm,
But then there was more that made me realize that. So that would be the cartoon in the 70s, is where I get my whole thing from, the story, the background.
mhm.
Um, but what I tell people now is, especially when you're starting, you don't need to just jump in and know it all, because there's no way that you're going to do a good job, I feel, by just doing that. Just because you're buying everything in sight and collecting and doing, and keep buying and going to the things, it actually, when you start working and doing and performing, and the practice and thinking and doing research and reading every book you can get your hands on, every children's book, everything, thrift stores, wherever it may be, it doesn't cost a fortune.
Right.
That's how you find out who you are. Nobody can tell you that or
Oh,
sell you that.
Sean, when I was a grad student in Cincinnati, Barnes and Noble just opened up. And, the nights that I couldn't afford to go out and such, I could afford to drive over to Starbucks in the Barnes and Noble and sit in different sections of the store and just flip through books. And
Wow.
I was really fortunate, in my church choir. And then I met Leslie Barris, who was the director of the Children's Reading Center at Xavier University. And we became fast friends, and she was my assistant conductor for the children's choir programs at St. Michael's Sharonville. And so, just those types of contacts, and then learning about what is a good children's book, what is a good book to read to a group, what is a good book just to read to just one person. Um, I always found that just incredible. So, it's amazing how opportunities find themselves.
Yep. And you said earlier at the beginning of the show how you like to practice your art through singing.
Yep.
And I've really been learning a lot and researching, because that's who I am, about art and how many forms art can be to someone.
Yep.
And um, and with that, if you go deeper, that would be creativity. And I talk to the groups I've been in front of about we are all creative. Don't think you're not. As you've grown up, you've been told you're not, right? Um, you know, stop daydreaming, think logically, and people start to think they're not creative anymore. So I think by practicing any kind of art, that's what I'm getting to here, be it singing, dancing, painting, any
Yeah.
of this stuff is going to help your character and it's going to help you be more creative and it'll get the juices flowing, basically. And being around each one of us as support system, which I talk a lot about, really makes the creativity go crazy. When I can talk to Betsy on the phone for hours on end, we have to like stop ourselves. But it's all creative stuff. It's not anything but that. We just start and come up with so much good stuff.
Well, the four of us, yourself, Mike, Betsy, myself, like, we meet to talk about the consortium work.
Yes,
And yeah, like, look how many times we realize it's been an hour and a half, 2 hours.
I know. It is
Yeah.
crazy.
But
And
but
it
you know
goes
what?
back with what you just said about the guy from McDonald's. What was his name? Somebody, Mike put
Ray
it up
Kroc,
here.
did someone, what?
Ray
Yes,
Kroc.
Mike, thank you, Mike. Yeah, Ray Kroc.
It
Yeah,
goes along with that,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Can you quote that again? Say that again. What?
Uh, when you're ripe, you rot. Stay green and ripen. So
Yes.
that we're always growing. We're always growing. We never come to the point where we have arrived.
Yes.
Um, there's always things like, like being down in San Antonio and seeing everyone, and but also when in our discussion groups at the table, I just found that fascinating because people who were attending, just wanting to attend, take it all in, I got as much observing them share that I did the other speakers. Um, uh, because just hearing their experiences, how they perceive ideas, how they process information, challenges what I'm thinking, and then I start to take back thinking, well, they're looking at it through this angle, and that fascinates me, and it does change how I look at things. And I think as Santa, Mrs. Claus, as the elves, part of their experience and part of their moral story, their morality play is how do you observe human nature and how do you bring the best out in people that you meet, and that's what all these characters do.
Hmm.
Whether it's the elves challenging you and putting up roadblocks, but they're not roadblocks, they're opportunities to have yourself reflect. You've got Santa, that this whole idea about personal reflection, that, well, Santa, I was naughty, and then you counter saying, well, why did this happen? Well, I just got frustrated, and blah, blah, blah. It's like, you got frustrated. Why did you get frustrated?
Hmm.
How are we going to do this differently now? Like, you're the older sister, you're the older brother. What type of example do you want your younger sister, your younger brother experiencing that? And so just hearing different life perspectives, I think, is so fascinating and really helps us out, which then also builds our character. Someone wrote here, comment about, is it Dawn commented? Okay,
Done.
it's
Yeah.
about big movements. Okay, so after for me, after I have an idea of what I want the character to be, Santa, I will admit to everyone, is, I think, one of the longest characters that I've lived with. Um, I didn't want to be Santa at first. Like, here I am in high school, big, huge. I think I'm going to be a bass. Maybe I'll be a baritone, and they get great roles. But I'm a bass. I'm tall, good Ukrainian stock. everything. And they say, "Oh, you're going to be Santa for the school when we have the elementary kids here." And it's like, but then when you
Right.
get bitten by the bug, it just takes over. So this idea of the large movements, when I'm in large concert halls, when we're in outdoor events, tree lightings, yes, there's just that natural excitement. When I'm doing one-on-ones, the large movements aren't there.
Yeah.
It's that very personal conversation.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
I can see that, like, with what I
yeah.
do. Definitely.
So and we start thinking about how does that character move. I think what's so great about our community is that our characters, there's so many things that define our characters, and as we let our characters grow, one of the biggest and one of the best things about these characters, just like in opera, or in traditional opera, because contemporary opera, uh, directors will challenge me on this, but the clothing, the periods that we dress as, um, these incredible suit makers, these wonderful dressmakers, these creative designers are capturing what that period is.
Mhm.
And what was it? Erica at Santa's Family Reunion did a session on
Yes.
underclothing.
Undergarments.
Yes, because
Yes.
it's those undergarments that dictate how we move. As you know, Sean,
Yep.
I'm really big about you need to work in your footwear that your character wears. You need to live in those boots. You need to live in those shoes because that will dictate how they move. Um, I
But
remember,
that's not funny if you take the wrong shoes and you got to perform. And then I remember your wise words. I'm like, oh no, but I made it. It was okay.
but
I,
you've got enough muscle memory there that says, okay, this is not what I would normally wear, but I know how it should feel. It's
yeah.
just, I love like wearing a vest and a cloak, but there's something about wearing that 4-inch wide belt because I people don't understand growing up on the prairies where in Winnipeg minus 30, it's a dry cold, by the way, and the North Pole is dry cold. That belt closes your coat so that the wind doesn't come up under your coat. That's the whole purpose, or to help you carry and lifting things,
Wow.
whether it's feed for the cattle, for the animals, or lifting sacks. That that
I
belt
never thought,
preserved.
okay, I never knew
Like
that, but
it will, it's like a weightlifter's belt,
yeah.
and it looks really cool.
Wow.
Um, and it's that part of the detail, just looking at clothing, looking at period clothing, like why is it was funny. I was in a production of Marriage of Figaro,
Mhm.
and the director said, well, okay, the count will be wearing mauve frock coats and the contessa will be wearing this fuchsia. Oh, Antonio, you'll be wearing dirty, muddy black clothes because you're a servant. I went, oh. And then I was at another symphony conference and they were talking about the history of concert dress. And because the servants in castles that had resident composers and orchestras, when the orchestra wasn't rehearsing or performing, they were serving. So, like, if you think of medieval times
Wow.
or at a singing restaurant, these performers are then serving you your meals. Well, all of these servants would always wear black. So then they would have to run up and perform these symphonies. Concert dress was what they wore serving. So it was black suits, black gowns. So,
Wow.
like thinking about what and why are they wearing? Mrs. Claus having an apron on, Santa in his shopwear. Like people ask me about wearing roping cuffs. Well, you didn't always have buttons, and you'd be tying your shirts closed, your sleeves closed, or you would have a roping cuff that would, or bracers, whatever you want to go with it. Actually, those cuffs I wear, I got when I was music director for for the show Das Barbecue, which Portland Opera put together to introduce the Wagner Ring Cycle as just an hour and a half musical set in taking the Ring Cycle in Texas, crossed with
Perfect.
Soap Opera Dallas, and those roping cuffs, which on the range you would actually, to get more leverage as you be roping cattle, you would wrap it around your cuff, and it wouldn't bother you. Well, Santa, as he's working in the shop, planing or something,
Yeah.
keeping that shirt clean, would that shirt won't tear, uh, preventing injuries. So you think about what was the purpose of all this clothing, and that adds to that character. Now, just wait, everyone. If Do not let this drive you nuts and thinking, well, why do I wear? Just just sunbathe with it, and these ideas will come to you. I know. So don't think, well, I never thought of these things. What's wrong with me? You're totally fine. These things come to me at the most inopportune times.
Right.
Yeah.
I've got quite a wardrobe. I've got everything from this beautiful red wedding dress that I bought from someone. Um, Very formal, beautiful, beautiful. It's expensive. And then I've got an antique dress that I was given by somebody that had passed and sent to
Yeah.
me. But then I have my ones that I always wear with the different aprons because I can't be Mrs. Claus vintage with the children. This is with big hoops and things in my dress because I need to get down there and hug children and have them crawl all over my lap and all that kind of thing. So that's who I am. That's who I figured out. Even though I have all these beautiful dresses and maybe I wear them at some point.
Yep.
Um, but yeah,
Yeah.
definitely, I get
Yeah.
it.
So all of this adds to that stage presence. Having confidence in your story. And by the way, just like our lives change, we go through different experiences. Our North Pole changes
Yeah,
because as we add life experiences, our
yeah.
clothing. And then was it Mike? Oh,
Mike has
Mike.
a
Yeah. And so okay, so our other partner in crime, Mike Hutchings. Uh, do you remember at the Red Suit Conclave where we did this ensemble based experience that midway through our session someone brought their grandchild or people were touring the complex, and we were going from this huge filling the entire banquet hall to then Santa had this beautiful little visit with this girl. Everyone still heard what was going on, everyone still saw, but
it changed.
between Santa and that girl, there was no one else there for those few moments. And it's funny, we talk about this, and I think this takes us to that next level. I remember in my early 20s when I thought, okay, I think opera, I think operetta, I think musical theater is where I should be going. And yes, I was working on my Bachelor of Music. I was a piano major. I realized that I hated being in the practice room for 4 hours a day. I wanted the ensemble experience. My voice started, like, I started to finally grow up. Like, so not just the frontal cortex started to move from being tapioca to being actual
It's
brain
fun.
mass, but um, I start to realize that, oh, I don't sound vocally like everyone else. I will never be a tenor. I think I was a tenor for maybe 5 minutes when I was 13 one night as
Wow.
the voice suddenly dropped. Yeah, I went from being a boy soprano down to kind of what you hear right
And I've
now.
heard that story. Isn't it about you have brothers and
Yeah,
they did not have that voice? I
no,
think that's
no.
so funny.
And but I thought, okay, so this is it, and I want to do large works. I want to play those incredible Mozart roles. I want to play those Verdi roles. I want to be Dahlin. I want to be Wotan. All these things that if I would have made other choices, great, but other things happened, and I did have regrets for a while, but I don't now. It's like everything is working out as it's supposed to. But I remember thinking, some of my friends are going into TV work in Toronto and Vancouver, and it's like you've got this incredible Shakespearean background, and you're doing American realism. Like,
Yeah.
what have you done with your technique? Well, it's made them incredible performers. And I think as Christmas performers, we have to have that dual technique. We have to have that classical comfort filling a space, but we also have to have the assurance and the self confidence that we can carry a conversation and focus the conversation with just an individual or three or four people.
And I think that that's probably hard for some people, I would think, to be able
Oh,
to go from, and one of my examples would be when I work with Jeff at the Children's Wonderland, because we
yeah,
do what is it, donuts with Miss the Clauses or something it's called.
2,000 people a day.
Yeah, and we have to individually walk around to them at the beginning of this hour, really early in the morning, and talk with them small. And then as we get bigger, and then we go big and talk to them, but then we're back down to a little, all the children just in front of us. So now that you're talking about this, that's what we have to do. And it not easy.
It's not easy. You know, I think for me, I'm naturally drawn to that big, huge classical filling up a hall of
Me
1,500
too.
people. The intimacy, it's real. It's
Yeah.
you're there, and your makeup, your grooming habits, your in my case, applying hair has to be impeccable because you can't have any distraction as that's going on.
No, and the other thing is we can go with this huge room, over 100 people, adults, the whole bunch of them.
Yeah.
And, during all that time, there might be one child that needs to talk to us. There's a troubled child. So
Hmm.
we have to
Yeah.
take big picture out and actually walk over and help this one child and figure out how to solve this situation quickly. And so it's not just walking into a room and being Mrs. Claus and Santa. There's a lot of dynamics to all these things that we're
Or
doing.
an elf, yeah. And there's so many elf possibilities out there, which is great.
Yes.
Mary wrote here, of course, yes, we will, yeah. Patience is just expected. How close is your Santa portrayal to your everyday personality? Um, okay, honestly, Mary, um, my my concept of Santa is based upon my grandfather, Justin Guerin.
That's nice.
Justin Guerin, his my great grandparents had him kidnapped out of Ukraine to get him over to Canada because of what was going on up to 1919. And he was the perfect patriarch. He bought me my first piano. He felt that I should be learning how to play Mozart as well as playing hockey, but I should be playing more Mozart and less hockey. And he just had a presence about him. He was barrel chested. I have many physical attributes as my grandfather. Actually, my if you look at my name, Bruce J.G. Kotowich, Bruce Justin Guerin Kotowich, so his name is in embedded in me. Um, so my concept of Santa is an homage to my grandfather.
That's so sweet. So
Yeah,
special. Wow.
yeah.
Wow. It's funny because I wonder how many others have that of a grandparent. Mine was a great grandma, is who, and I lived with her in when I was in high school to take care of her and help her. Um, and she I swear she was molding me to do this back in the day when I was in high school, because as a 17, 16 year old, you're like, why are you telling me this stuff, grandma? But yeah,
Yeah.
with her apron on, talking to me about things, and that's stuff that I talk to kids about now. Children, it's crazy. So
John has a great okay. So
yeah.
I have to share this story. I know we're going over time.
No,
So,
that's right.
so first year, uh, Faculty of Music, University of Manitoba. I'm studying with this world class pianist, Cindy McInnes Young. Um, Again, how did I get in Sid's studio? I don't know.
Wow.
Just happenstance. So I come one day. It was still September. Just starting lessons with her, and I had just been playing handball. So and I was late. So I was coming into her studio taking tape off my hands. So John, this kind of ties in. She says, "Oh, what is that?" I said, "Oh, it's just tape. I was playing handball." She said, "Oh, is that where you run around on a squash court? You have no racket, but you use your hands, and the tape is supposed to protect you." Okay. And I didn't know Sydney's husband was like the number one gynecologist in Manitoba. And I thought, well, what does she know? I said, well, yes, yes, Mrs. That's how it goes. Yes. She said, really? And she said, and you do this? I said, this, well, yeah, every few days. I love it. Blah, blah, blah. She picks up the phone, she calls the athletic center and had my student card canceled for the
Oh,
hand courts. She put the phone down. She said, now let's hear you play after your hands are swollen and your fingers can barely move.
oh my goodness.
And I just thought, ooh, who are you? But,
Wow.
but I'll tell you, but she's one of those people that changed how I thought, that changed my attitude. Because originally I wasn't going to stay in music. I thought I'll go for a year, get it out of my system, and then go to the school of medicine and be what I was supposed to be.
Right.
But as a musician, I am a healer.
Yeah,
I'm just going
for
to leave it there.
real.
I'm
For
kind of
real.
taking you off our agreed
That's all
time.
right. I want to go back to, I know something that the four of us have talked a lot about. Actually, if you can talk about our group first, and then I have a question for you.
Sure. The Claus Consortium Group um, was just born out of four people on a similar path that collided at the right time. And basically, what it is, it's the idea of ensemble, that not one person stands out and is supported by the others, but we support each other, and that uh, our characters just show their everyday lives when they're visiting. And there's sometimes that Santa just kind of lets it all happen. Like my grandfather would just let it all happen at family gatherings, but then he would engage when it was like, time. And so this idea of basically taking Charles W. Howard's comment about Santa enters through the heart,
Yep.
which is so important because when we're talking more about stage presence, and I've got a limited background in terms of classical technique through Michael Chekhov's technique of
Mhm.
acting. So his book To the Actor, talking about feeling that expansiveness, that you feel the space, that your energy as it um, expands with other people's energies. And that's how we connect, so that the ensemble comfort happens from being at ease with everyone's presence. So the idea of the consortium is that we're a group of like-minded performers that are thinking about how do we take a tradition,
Yep.
break it down, talk about its origins. So talking about researching the idea of where did Santa come from, where did Mrs. Claus, like looking at Pan's book that's about to be released and all of her work. So looking at that type of stuff, putting it into action so that we come back to the performance, we come back to living these characters in public with a deeper sense of understanding, with a more expanded heart, with a more deepened emotional content, without this artificiality of I am acting, you
Yes.
know. So it's just taking, and I think here in Canada, as we're decolonizing and we're looking at how the Indigenous people share information and how like medicines and surviving the elements here and living at one with nature, this idea about knowledge keepers and the idea of keeping track of this incredible tradition, and how so many other cultures come together and have a similar story with slight variations. Like one of them, it's amazing. Suddenly, the story of the Christmas spider, which I grew up knowing as a Ukrainian legend, then hearing that there's a version from what I don't know, 1600. Let's just say 1600. That was a German version that was copied down. And there's a Czech version, and you just hear about this and realizing, wow, like we have common threads. There's differences. So having that comfort and that knowledge base for me expands my heart, and the the feeling and the depth really starts to take hold. And I think that's where that human experience takes place. So with the Cause Consortium, that's what we're trying to um, kind of anchor these ideas, expand these ideas, find commonalities, and find other people who are also interested in this. And to say, how do we share our story? How do we keep our community healthy, encouraged? Because let's face it, and Jim's here, and we just took our suits in to see Sam last week. As we were driving up 90.
Oh, yeah.
I just said, Jim, I said, there's more need for Santa in our community than what either of us can meet. And I know that that we've been reading these stories in the paper saying there's a shortage of Santas. There's a shortage of yeah, you know there is a shortage of family. There's a shortage of so much in our culture right now.
Very
So
much.
there's a place at the table for all of us.
So when let's get back to when we're on stage performing.
Yeah.
I remember at the very beginning of this when we first did it in Michigan, the three of us before we picked up the Tooth Fairy
Yep.
to join our story.
Hmm.
Um, that you wanted to make a point with what we were doing, and I would say that we could all be equal was one of your main points. We could all act equally
Right.
together, and it would be very rewarding for each one of us. Nobody was, it can work like that. I
Hmm.
think you were trying to dispel a little bit of ego kind of stuff that might be happening,
Yep.
and to show that we can still have just a complete blast doing this stuff. So am I right?
Right. And also it also shows that Santa's not a one-man band. There is, like, in my North Pole, there are 84600 elves that live there full time, but then expands to over 25,000 by the holiday season, because we've got friends, we've got the fairies, we've got so many other visitors that help us get through. And I think in telling our story, just seeing that interaction about, sure, does Santa have it all together? He does. But Santa's human, and there's self-doubts creep in, worries creep in. So how he's able to confide in Mrs. Claus, how Mrs. Claus is so sensitive to her husband that she feels that, oh, the blood pressure is rising. We have to get those hormones calming down.
And then I would look at Phineas for help because he knew just looking at me what I would need.
And Phineas also knows what Santa's triggers are. So it's that type of idea. And again, people, as you're listening to this, you're thinking, oh, you guys are just are out there. But it's the idea of creative play. And I remember when I was teaching school, in my mid-20s, reading a study that we educate creativity out of children by grade 4 in North America. That's scary.
Yeah.
So the idea for us to just let this take place, let that story expand, I think is so important. It also teaches children, and it reminds families what community is. And it also reminds people how we need each other. And Mike, yes, creative play. Yeah. Collective storytelling, improvisation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I learned so much just from these two performances that you don't realize it. You don't even realize it going through it, but afterwards you're like, "Oh my gosh, I cannot believe what we just pulled off and what we did." Um, and it just makes me self-assured or whatever you want to call it for my
Mhm.
next whatever I may be doing. So I don't know if it was taking a chance, not having a lot, making it happen. I don't know.
Well, but but if you think about it, we had a basic storyline. It's
Yeah.
just like we come home from going to the grocery store, and Jennifer always waits to hear what happened at Zares when I went to go get
That's
groceries.
funny.
And it's anything from someone with a cart behind me that drove their cart over the back of my heel on my Achilles tendon, to the computer system as I was checking out had a meltdown and I blew out the entire 12 checkout lines
Oh
on a
my
Saturday
gosh.
afternoon. That type of stuff. And our stories, the Tooth Fairy coming on a Saturday morning to the North Pole in February. Really? Like, does she
I
know?
loved it when we were going, the four of us were going back and forth with, how about this? How about this?
Yeah.
And then whenever one of us would say the magical whatever it was, then we'd all go, "Ooh, yeah, yeah, that's it." And then we'd move on to the next whatever.
Yeah. And it's like doing a Mozart opera. It's like one of the finales at one of the at the end of an act, that there's all this chaos happening, but yet every character is equal in there, which is so important. Oh my goodness, Kevin's also here. Yeah, John. Yeah, kind of like Dungeons and Dragons for Santa. Um, yeah, Kevin, exactly. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, and I think there was so much dynamics. We were verbally, non-verbally, everything. We were watching everything, but we were able to just go through it.
yeah.
And actually, one of my favorite moments was when we were just waiting backstage to go on stage, because it was such a musical love of mine to be waiting in the curtains, ready to go on stage. So that's
Yeah, it was. Yeah, and and there's a certain peace and calm that was taking place that really let us focus.
we weren't even talking. But we were all.
Yeah, you know, and also what I find is that I get into that state where like, what was it, a few years ago, there was running in the zone,
Yeah.
managing in the zone, like this, being in the zone. And for me, being in the zone is that I'm in a state of calm, even though my body's like just ready to go crazy.
Mhm.
But there's this sense of calm and this focus, and the energy is there. But it's that, how do you let the energy out? How do you let your presence, or how do you feel that you are expanding, that you're letting your personality expand, you're letting your character grow, feel that space, or letting it calm down, so that that intimate conversation's there without scaring the person off. Like, think about, like, like how many people that you've met that have these huge personalities, that's like, whoa, and I think I'm a raging extrovert, because I've been told that I'm a raging extrovert, but
Uh-huh.
there's something about what the extroverts have, or what the introverts have, about this calm, and listening is so important.
So I'll tell you what happens to me. I'm on a zoning appeals board,
Oh,
major politics, political thing, whatever. We have the power to say yes or no to big money, lots of stuff happening. So when I have my meetings during November and December, and I'm really out there from performing in front of hundreds and hundreds of people, and then I have to sit in a little room and behave myself. It's so hard to transition back into that person.
yeah.
So,
Well, earlier, before the show started, I was sharing with Sean that, Sean said, "Hey, so what are you doing at the university now? And classes are done." I said, "We're going through external review for our program." And she went, "Oh," and yeah, like, were there times today where I just said the most inappropriate things? Probably. I didn't sound very academic, but it's like, we're there teaching, we're training young artists, and we can't box it up into some sort of algorithm. So that part of us just have to be there.
that's why I realize how Um, it, I am tired as all be out, or whatever you want to call it during the season. So tired, but so happy. Like my soul is full of love and happy, and I couldn't count how many hugs I have. And then I have to go into places where it's not necessarily real happy, and we have angry people, and it's such a drastic hit you in the face kind of thing. And of course I keep doing it because it is my thing, um,
Yeah.
but thank God for performing. That's all I can say. And the other part of that is now that I'm going to hopefully be doing musicals in January, starting first thing, so there won't be any downtime really from performing other than maybe a week, and then I'm back singing and dancing, and I think that's the way I got to roll from now on. I figured out.
You know what? You know what? All of us need to find, where are we going to get inspiration? Where are we able to test out and expand ourselves
Yep.
and get inspired? You're doing your community show. Can we share that Betsy's taking adult, or is it an adult cheer squad?
She was, I don't know if they're going now, but yeah, she was a cheerleader for adults, and
Yeah.
she'd never been a cheerleader. We call it we dubbed it, actually, she did, self improvement. What kind of self improvement are you doing for yourself?
And Betsy
I,
said, yes, yes, I am. And then Mike runs off to Toronto, and he's
yeah,
back with major musicians on world class stages. So and then I go off and I sit in a hockey net for an hour
yeah.
a week and stop pucks. Yes, I find it pleasurable. It drains a lot of nonsense out of my head. Um,
But the point is to all of this, this is what we've all found in our crazy worlds that works for us.
yeah.
And it doesn't, when you think self improvement, you think yoga or exercising or golf or something. But no, I kind of like the way our little creative world goes, because we're just going with it. And this is what does work for us and makes us healthy and
Hmm.
gets
Well,
through depression and all that type of thing in January and February, March. Um, yeah.
well, I will say this summer I plan to learn how to use Canva
Yep.
and
Good.
other AI, because apparently for PowerPoint presentations at universities now, if you don't have good looking PowerPoint presentations, ooh, it shows up on your perceptions of teaching and education scores. Um, but
Wow.
also, I remember when I was in grad school in Cincinnati, I did Tai Chi one winter, and for some reason, I want to find a Tai Chi class here, because it really helped me center and focus and so forth and such. You know,
Nice.
yeah,
Nice.
because there is something about what we do, is that we need to be able to come. We need to be comfortable in allowing ourselves to pull into ourselves before we have to be with everyone, so that things are concentrated.
I would like, I'm going to go down the road of painting. I've always wanted to paint, as basic as that. I've never done it, and that's one. And dance class. I'm ready for some dancing.
You know what? I think we should all be dancing our entire lives.
Yes.
You know, like a lot of this ensemble ideas, creative play, I think for our community, I think what keeps us young the is is the actual brain processing. Like when we're recruiting university students, occasionally parents or students that are looking at the university will say, "Well, if you didn't do music, what, or if you were entering now, what would you do?" And I now tell people that if I was their age, if I was 18 years old in 2025, I'd be looking at neuroscience, because there's something about neurology that I'm finding so fascinating.
Yeah.
And what I'm learning is that at as we're working through our craft, building a sense of comfort, stage presence, um, we're building more neural pathways between the two hemispheres. And this creative play, what we're doing when we're meeting guests, when we're at large events, is the, how rapid messages can cross from left and right brain is so important. So this idea of movement, doing other things, learning an instrument, learning a foreign language, getting out of our comfort zones.
Yes, that's right there is the words for
Yeah.
what you just said. Because like this year doing Mamma Mia, I was dancing and twirling around up on a bridge, and I thought, what in the heck am I doing?
Hmm.
And I was so out of my comfort zone. And thank you for my partner Brian, because he helped me through it and I helped him through it. But there
Yeah.
was times when I was like, oh my gosh, why am I doing this? This is so hard. But then
Hmm.
I figured it out. I did it, and we were proud of each other because we were able to pull it off.
Yeah.
Um, Comfort zone, yes. I've got a book right now I want to share.
Yep. Don, thanks again. Thank you for stopping by. Have a wonderful evening.
I know we're going over a little bit.
Yeah, sorry about that, folks. I just talked
No,
too much.
it's okay. This is, I don't know if you've read this.
Oh
Have you read this?
no, but I've seen it. I've seen it advertised. It came across one of my news feeds.
This is really good. It talks about the brain and in the connections with art. So, and it's by a neurosurgeon.
Hmm.
I think her husband is too. Um, and it's very well credited, the information they're giving in this book. So, yep, she's got it too. So this
Good.
is one of our first ones I took a deep dive into. So with
You
the
know
art.
what? This just crossed my crazy squirrel cage of a brain. I think once every 2 months, one of your shows should be the book club night, and we have two
Ooh.
months to read through or skim through or just thumb through a book, and you just lead an open discussion. Or what? Let's with your
I'll
cash,
write it. I'll write
you
it down.
you could always get you could kind of talk some of these authors to showing up.
Ooh.
Yeah, yeah. Um, but yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, I've got, and Betsy does too. This is what we do. I've got stacks of books everywhere, and I'm working on a bookshelf, so I can just look up here while I'm talking on the show and point to it and know where it's at. So, yes.
So, also, Kate, I'm sure people are thinking, Kate, you're talking about like expanding energy and all this stuff. Um, if you go online, just look up the acting teacher, coach, director Michael Chekhov, Chevo. No, I can't air spell. Checov. I think it is Michael Chekhov.
Yep,
And
Michael put it on here for
oh,
us. He
thank
usually
you.
does.
Oh,
Maybe
great,
he
great.
will. I don't know.
Um, and his treatise is called "To the Actor." It's now finally published, and he talks about how posture, about how physical interaction, and and this is and I'm exploring this summer his concept about radiation, which is about stage presence and expanding, contracting, and just controlling, so that yeah. And people have made, well, but we have to be careful not to be too big. Correct. One of my colleagues at the season closer for the regular concert season, I had the university choirs, both university choirs, symphony chorus. One of our alums brought 40 of his singers from London, Ontario, and we had 150. No, we had like 200 musicians on stage for performance of Carmina Burana. So Lionel, who teaches Chekhov technique with the Chekhov Foundation and Society, he was talking about saying it was so interesting watching the expansion and how the stage presence as a conductor was changing to fit what was going on with the music. And the idea about us, like, the idea of just thinking about what we do. I know that this is something that we just practice and it becomes second nature.
Mhm.
So if people are kind of wondering, well, you're talking about this, well, so this is what I'm exploring, and I'm going back to, and I'm bringing that part of the book that I never got to originally, because it's like, okay, I've got enough information here. I could go out there and I could be dangerous. So now, and and just kind of looking at like how does how do the great acting teachers talk about this? Now, I'm not saying that we all have to be Chekhov practitioners, but just a little knowledge is really helpful, and it kind of causes just different ideas. And Michael, yes,
Yeah,
thank
he
you.
put it on here for us.
Yeah, and okay, for what Lionel teaches. Yeah, great. Also, I know that you were asking me, do I have any vocal helps for the summer right now? I know we were talking about this earlier.
Yeah.
Um, this People are going to be disappointed with this help, but I think this is going to be really helpful. Duh, helpful. Yeah, the redundancy here. Um, School teachers. My wife Jennifer is on the board for Ontario Nats, National Association of Teachers of Singing. And I was listening to one of the workshops, and it was for school teachers and speakers how to come out of a summer break or an extended break and suddenly realize, like, for those of us who teach, I don't have my rehearsal hall, I don't have my coach's voice or whatever you want to call it.
Right.
And September comes, and 20 minutes into a rehearsal, I feel burned out. And it's like, okay, we could just sing, but it's like these initial rehearsals, I need to be there. So what I did last summer was followed this idea. I started in August, every day reading aloud to myself, 5 minutes. And then I was kind of expanding it. So this year, what I've been doing, starting in June, twice a week, I will read out loud. And it could be a children's story, it could be any book for 5 minutes, just so that the mechanism feels it. July, I'm going to do 3 days a week. So, like, say Tuesday, Fridays, uh,
How long do you do this for when you do
five,
it?
10 minutes.
Oh, okay.
Then August, I'll do 4 days a week so that by the end of August, 5 days, and 5 days is maximum. Like, even when I'm teaching voice, I'll tell my
This is
students,
really good information, Bruce.
oh, see, okay, good. Because, like, for me,
This is good
this is just every day how we work that just to keep ourselves fresh. And
because when November gets here, I start the first weekend in November. I'm struggling, struggle bus with the voice.
well, and see the thing, if you do just something simple
Yeah.
like this, and uh, Robert Sawyer, I'm just gonna, or Santa True, I'm gonna take a bit of your stuff. I love with Robert the need, like his storytelling background, the need to have just like say a visit from Saint Nicholas at our fingertips that we could just by memory tell, just do that. Combine like memorizing a poem, memorizing a story, like a well-known story, with this vocal exercise. And it's not that I shall now practice the voice. No, you're just every day, just or twice a week, and
Yeah,
expanding.
don't wait until November and then talk for
Oh,
8 hours a day or whatever
yeah,
and
good luck,
craziness
because
starts.
then you'll be having your agent or who's ever managing whatever you're
Mm,
doing not ever wanting to
it's a
sign
really
you.
good idea.
Yeah, yeah,
So the other question that kind of goes with that for performers is, and I know you've taught this before, some of it. Um, some of us, when we talk, our voices change when we go into character, and then
right.
the strain of that change is hard. It's hard to keep your
Sure.
voice from doing that for so long. Any help with this predicament?
Okay. Um, we've all been given incredible instruments. I still have, at my age, I find it very difficult to watch recordings or listen to myself sing. And that's just who we are. What we hear through bone conductivity versus what comes out actually are two different sounds. And
Hmm.
that's perfectly fine. And so getting used to that, a lot of people think, well, my concept of this character, they sound like this, they speak like this, and then they hear themselves and say, oh, this is bad. So they try to speak outside of their normal speaking registers. It's just like when I was younger, it's like, I want to play Jean Valjean, but I'm a Javert, if not even lower. I wanted to be Figaro in Barbara Seville, and I was Don Bartolo. Not pretty, not romantic, but dang, I got the audience on my side. You know, so we just come with it. So use your natural voice. Let your natural voice be there, because that's what you've been given. And you can, through cadence, inflection in the speech, changing pace, emphasizing consonants, de-emphasizing consonants. All of those types of things will save your voice. And of course, hydrating. Like, yeah, okay,
Yeah.
yeah, Tim Hortons and Starbucks and One Mean Bean. I should have bought stocks when I first heard about these companies.
Yeah.
But the thing is, I need to have enough water to flush out all that caffeine. Plus, also, it's getting warmer out. We sweat out, or like we were just down in Moab a few weeks ago. It was so dry you didn't even notice. You don't even sweat. It's pulled out of you, but you finally feel it. Something's wrong, and it's like, I've not been hydrating. I've not been drinking water. I've not been, you know.
Yeah. And on
Uh,
the flip side, during the season, I have a humidifier right beside my bed.
mhm,
So,
yeah.
because I can tell the difference and
Mhm,
no sore throats and all that type of, it
yeah.
helps anyways a
Yeah.
lot.
Yeah. And also people, speaking with people and saying, you know what, I found that this natural remedy, I found this product, I found these things. Yeah. Listen,
Yeah.
try things out before you get into the critical stage. And
Hmm.
the other thing next to staying hydrated, sleep.
Yeah.
You,
That gets kind of hard.
it is hard, but you've got to weigh what you want to do
Yeah.
to what you're expected of and what you've agreed to and what you should be doing. So take care of yourself. It's taken me years to just admit, like, I remember like a couple summers ago, all of you guys were involved when I was having my gallbladder crisis.
Yeah.
And, and I went back for a visit afterwards. I told my surgeon, I said, you know what? I want to go to bed around 9:30 now. And she looked at me, she said, you sound shocked. I said, well, I'd like to stay up till 2 in the morning. She said, that's abnormal. Listen to your body for a change.
Right. Right. I know it's hard to keep it together, like, because I'll drive to Ohio and 5 in the morning, blizzard, and be a nervous wreck in costume too. So if I ever got in an accident or pulled over, it would be quite the mess.
Yeah.
But then to
Um,
get down there and have to talk.
Betsy, vocal drops, it depends what's in the vocal drops. You don't want anything that will dry out, and so you feel really dry, and you also don't want anything that will numb things out. Like, um, some of the products, I forget, there was one that was really popular, and you'd spray it, and then that irritating feeling just suddenly went away, and then a
Yikes.
few hours later, after it wore off, and you were in worse shape.
Oh,
When you do feel pain, when you do feel discomfort, that's your body saying you need to take care of yourself. So, um, if like, we should all be going in for our regular checkups. Speak with your doctor about, um, what do they recommend, and say, listen, I'm going to be, November, December, I start this stuff. I don't want to get sick. I have no control over it. This is what I'm trying to get more sleep. I'm trying to hydrate. I'm trying to do some vocal exercises. I'm trying to walk more. Simple walking. I remember when I was so just sidebar here, when I was teaching, one of our the the athletic teacher that was hired when I was like this all-star football player at the University of Manitoba, and played for the CFL, I think, also. And I told Mitch, I said, "Oh, Mitch, like, I just need to get back in the gym and do all these things." He said, "Yeah." He said, "That's great." He said, "But you're not working on the stage anymore." And I said, "Well, what do I do?" He said, "Walk." He said the best exercise in the world, and he said even as a pro athlete, he said I walk, I walk everywhere.
Yeah.
So that type of stuff. Um, yeah, anything that says that it takes away discomfort. Like I remember, was it mentholated cough drops?
Yep.
That it was all the rage back in the 80s. But then what we found out was that yes, at night, like Vicks rub and that type of stuff, and is great. But when you're actually working, it's not great.
Wow.
Um, a spray bottle with water, yeah. So hydrating without drinking, yes.
You
Um,
know what you know I use these for the musical too. At Christmas time, the peppermint little circles and they kind of dissolve. I love that. It's just enough,
those
and
rock candies, yeah.
yep, then
Just
I
and
don't have a big bunch of candy or nothing. It just I can chew it up pretty quick and it clears out
yeah,
before
yeah.
tonight.
Anything, yeah. As Mike says, anything that numbs or analgesize, size, yeah, you avoid it. Like when you are off and you are down and you are not in public for 24, 48 hours, then speak with your doctor about what you should be using, or just just um, community advice. But if you're limping along and trying to use this stuff to get you through, um, I really worry about possible side effects afterwards, because
Wow.
it'll take you longer to recover down the road.
Okay, I've got one more question. We're going to take it back just real quick, and then
Sure.
we're
Oh my
going to.
goodness! Oh, wow, I've been talking far too much.
No, that's okay. I want to touch on this real quick,
Yeah,
and it's back to kind of staging.
yeah.
Talking about being authentic. I think it just kind of rounds everything that we've been talking about today. And on here, I've wrote authentic emotional expression, but I mean authentic in every which way. Can you just kind of talk to us and kind of round everything we've talked about, put it all into being authentic and what that means or should mean, maybe?
For me, the idea of authenticity is that you are honest about what you're feeling. That um, like I work with people that everything's always wonderful. It's this, and and I hear people talk about toxic positivity. That is not being authentic. Being able to sympathize with someone, being able to listen to someone and acknowledge what they're feeling. I think that's being authentic. Um, the sheer joy of looking at all these people out at a tree lighting, that they're there. They're not there to see you. You're just an extra bauble. You're an extra decoration on that tree, but they're there for the experience, the total experience. They're there to see that tree light. They're there to hear who's performing. They're there to be with other people. They're there to recapture, to confirm, to reconfirm what they've always believed in, or try to recapture what they've always wanted.
So,
That's the idea of authenticity. And I know that people say, but as performers, you're not being authentic. No, we do draw upon what we're truly feeling. And I know many of you, and I know myself, and I've heard many people share just how some visits you're so uplifted, and others you just cannot give them enough of your heart.
yep,
That's
that's
being
it.
authentic.
That's it. That the authentic feeling for me is when I'm just one on one or with the children and talking with them, and I really do mean what I'm saying.
Yeah,
Anything that I'm speaking to them is for real,
yeah,
and the emotion that I'm putting in it, and all of that is authentic.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
well, thank you for that.
My pleasure.
So I want to talk about your upcoming projects. And the one that deals with the Claus Connect, I'd really like to talk about because that's
Sure.
very special.
Yes.
And I don't really know that I've even announced any of this. Last week I was a little busy, so I didn't do too well with it, but I will get better. I wanted to start some traffic on the Claws Connect and just get things going and people talking and maybe get some more people on there. Just some fun, just fun. And so I created 3 days a week, only three, not too much. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, that we're going to have like a activities kind of thing. That if you want to get on there and participate, that'd be great. So far, we I've got Toy Shop Talk on Tuesday, and I'm hoping there's a certain elf, but I know he's been a little bit busy, so I'm just going to carry on and be the toy shop person for a while. Um, Workshop Wednesday, I've asked Santa Bruce here to help out with that day.
Yep.
And then Throwback Thursday, that's the easy one that I'll take just to put pictures on and keep track of what's going on there. And I would have had the Tooth Fairy participate, but she is one busy lady, so she's
Well, she could float around and help all three of
yeah,
us.
yeah. So tell us about your Workshop Wednesday and what that means to you.
Okay, so whenever I hear the term workshop, I think about junior high. First year junior high for me was grade 7, and grade 7 shop. Wood, all the boys had to go to wood shop, where I think one of my dad's war buddies, Mr. Bajik, taught wood shop, and it was like for the entire afternoon or entire morning, which was great, but it was also like horrific because he would talk about how just a simple handsaw you can cut off a finger.
Yeah.
So I was starting to get into my own that wow, like I'm doing these piano competitions, I'm playing for these things, and I can't get hurt. And of course, like my other friends were saying, well, like this is just weird. Like if we touch sandpaper the wrong way, we could get an infection because of the
Oh gosh.
sandpaper, like a sliver and all this stuff. So um, what we did one day was that we saw what we had to do. We had to have so many projects before Christmas and or for the first semester, so end of January. So we organized ourselves into a workshop. So we so we had people who planned out, like we all agreed this is what we want to make, and then we had people who were pattern setters, we had
Oh,
people who would pattern cut, and then sanding, fabrication, finishing. So we got everything done in the first half of the term.
smart.
And of course, so Mr. Bajik called my dad and said, your son has ruined my course. And my dad, which I was so proud of him, he just said, well, he's got a competition in November someplace, and I don't know, I stay out of it. But my dad was in support of it. He just said, just don't irritate those teachers. You're no longer
That's what I tell my
school,
kids.
So if for those of you who are wondering, like I even have problems making sure I've got all the parts for the IKEA stuff I buy. So what's going to happen? This workshop idea is just our first one is I'm going to throw up pictures. I'm just going to have one picture, and it's going to be books that I'm going to reacquaint myself with again, or something new for this holiday season. And so, and I want people to throw up a picture of what they want to look at, what they want to read. So every week it's going to be a different topic. Like I just took in my boots to a new cobbler shoemaker here in Windsor. He's just moved from Iran, and I need to have something fixed on one of my boots. And he said, "Well, do you want me also to polish and everything?"
Yeah.
I don't recognize my boots. They are beautiful. So like one thing will be about, like working with our leather straps and like what product I'm using and the before and after.
Nice.
That
Nice.
stuff. And if you have ideas, and so like workshop, yeah, we're not going to build dining room tables and toys and that, but the workshop is to get us ready for this coming season. And if you have topics that you think we should be doing on those Wednesdays when I put up a new post, send it in to me. Use my Santa Bruce Guerin account on Facebook.
Okay.
So that's what I'm thinking of, and it will morph and change when we realize what we all really need.
Yeah. And maybe if you want to make a post at some point and put the, from Santa on there,
Yeah,
and what if you have any, just put it on there so they can find it, and we'll pin it or something.
cool.
Um, so
It's not going to look pretty at first, but it's going to get up there.
it, it's a good thing. Thank you so much for doing that. Um, and if it's only a couple people, it's a couple people that you've helped, or they've helped you, or
Exactly. It's an
whatever.
it's an exchange.
Yes, yes. So let's go to, I was just all into that. Okay, last thing, Dr. Bruce.
Yes.
I would like one note of wisdom from you before you leave tonight for everyone. For everyone that watches this possibly later for the recorded
Yeah.
that are on YouTube, the Claws Connect, please find me and subscribe. Um, hopefully, a lot of people. So, what is your wisdom, your words of wisdom?
It's just it's I think a very difficult lesson I have problems practicing is to be the best version of yourself.
Yes.
We see so many incredible examples, like just this list of people who have been here tonight. I don't know if you're still here, but some of you I look up to. Many of you I look up to, and it's like you're coming to listen to what we're just going to chat about. Um, they've got unique gifts, but also you have to understand you've got your unique gifts. Um, our communities need us. We need to be the best versions of ourselves as Mrs. Claus, as Santa, as an elf, as a
Tooth
guide,
fairy.
as a tooth fairy, as Sandman, um, as Easter Bunny. We need to be the best version of who we are. Um, does it mean that there's going to be slight differences? Yes. Um, I believe that something happened millenniums ago, some event that human pride caused, whether it was the Tower of Babel that was built, but something happened to us as a species that creation said, no, you're not going to do that. That's not why I created you. That there's this wonderful mosaic of who we are, and our unique gifts have a place everywhere. And I know that many people feel that, well, I don't fit into the mold of what's there, but you are needed.
Yeah.
You are part of this. You speak to people. Um, so be the best version of yourself. Take care of yourself, um, and prize yourself. Sincerely prize yourself, because you've been given gifts that no one else has, and that is unique. And you need to guard that, and you need to cultivate it.
And I will add to that beautiful words of wisdom, that we do this for the children, and we need not forget that we're making the magic of the season, no matter what holiday it may be. But this is for the children, the bottom line. So we need to do as best we can to be authentic in our wonderful selves. So
So
thank you.
do we still have people on with us? Like, it's been an hour 45 plus.
I think we do.
Oh my goodness, thank you. Wow.
Judy's here, Charlie's here, Mike's here, Betsy. Yeah,
everyone's everyone's
that's
done their
just one little screen. I don't have the whole thing pulled up. Yeah, pretty cool.
everyone's done their Lenten
Oh, you
penance.
have one question real quick,
Yes.
from Matt. He
Yeah.
wants to know where your cobbler's name, please, or if you could send that to him. Or
Okay, Matt. I'm gonna post. I'm gonna post on my Santa Bruce Garin a picture of the front of his shop and his information. Then, and I'll show um, one of the pairs that I had done. I am. It's my Westco um, Boss biker boots, which I thought would only have a matte oil finish. And he said, no, he said, this is what Santa should be wearing. And it was just like, him as
That's so
um,
nice.
from Iran saying, "No, this is what Saint Nicholas's boots should look like," and it's like, yeah, it's just it
That's
blew
who
my
you want helping you. That's wonderful.
yeah, and someone from who I didn't even think this was part of his his cultural experience. He said, "Oh
He
no,
was a,
no, no."
yeah.
He said, "No, no, this is what Santa wears." And he said, "And you bring it back when you got downtime. You bring it back so that you always look polished and ready." And I thought, well, I should learn how to do it. He said, "I will make sure you look right."
I
And I
love
thought,
that.
oh my god, like
I love that so
yeah,
much.
yeah,
So just real quick, we do have others on here. John, Matt, Kevin, they're all on here. Is
yeah.
so thank you
So,
all of you for staying on and participating tonight. Let me see if there's
this is
anybody
wonderful.
else.
Sean,
Yeah,
thank you for the opportunity just to come and visit.
yeah,
This was
we'll have
great.
to do it again. It's
Yeah,
wonderful and so much to talk about. I don't even. It's hard to pin it down just to certain things.
yeah.
Um, so thank you tonight. I appreciate your time. I know you're a busy guy too. Thanks for sharing the wisdom with all of us. We appreciate you.
Thank
Love
you
you
so
very much. So I
likewise.
also want to say thank you to Angela, our
Yes,
wonderful producer. She's the best. Um,
she makes us look and sound great.
Heck yeah,
Yeah,
couldn't do it without her.
yeah.
And thanks to the TNL Network Productions for supporting the Claus Connect and taking care of all of us and everything you guys do. We appreciate that too. Um, Subscribe to the YouTube channel for the TNL Network Productions as well as the Claus Connect. It's free. It helps both of us out. So please get on there and just subscribe. Um,
John, that's blasphemy. It's Go Oilers. Sorry.
and next Monday, June 16th, my next show will be with Santa Tom Smith. I was on his show a few weeks ago. He's from Conroe, Texas. He's a newer Santa Claus, but he let's see, on YouTube he has almost 42,000 subscribers. So he's kind of a big deal, and he is a super nice man. So I'm looking forward to the conversation with him. I know he has lots of questions, and we might need all of audience that's here. Please come back because we might have even more newbies on here that need your answers because we don't know it all on here and we look to the audience to help out too. So we appreciate that. So with that, I'm going to say good night and thank you, Dr. Bruce, and thank you everybody that was here. We'll see you next Monday.
Good night. Thank